Episode 347, the Pandemic Series with Dave Proctor. Welcome to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pandemic Series. I'm talking with Dave Proctor. Welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you on, and I'm really thankful that you're giving me a little bit of your time to talk with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Terry.
Yeah, so let's talk about the pandemic here. You were going to race across Canada, and what happened?
Yeah, it seems like life got turned on its head within a 72-hour period of time. So, I've been planning the last couple of years. Trans-Canadian speed record attempt. I was going to run 105 kilometers every day for 67 days across Canada. Canada's really big. And break the Trans-Canadian speed record and raise over $1 million in awareness and advocacy for rare disease. My son, 11-year-old boy, he's got a rare disease. But, like everybody in the world, their lives got turned upside down. And every major event, race, public gathering, workplaces, everything's been canceled, and people are now quarantining, and to stay healthy and safe. So unfortunately, we've ended up having to postpone the run across Canada, or what we call Outrun Rare, until the summer of 2021.
Wow. So everybody knows what COVID-19 is by now, and if you don't, you've been living in a hole for a really long time. When did you first hear about COVID-19, and when did you realize that, it's just another virus, whatever, not a big deal, to, okay, this is going to have an impact? What happened? When did you first hear about it, and when did that perspective shift?
Yeah, we've heard about a number of different viruses starting up in China and Southeast Asia, and they tend to not go too far, or go far enough, and then science gets on top of it. But it just seemed like it spread very, very quickly to other countries like Italy and France and I believe it was Iraq or Iran, and things got out of control really quickly. I think that we could look at those other countries and say, okay, we know what's coming. It's like when a major downpour happens out in the mountains and the towns along the way are getting flooded. And you go, oh my goodness, those towns are getting, well, you're next. If you're downstream, you're next. And so we should have all seen this coming. But when the virus, when COVID-19 started coming and arriving in our countries, the United States, and, I live in Canada, it came and it really scared everybody, just because, our medical officers were telling us just really how terrible this is. And including myself, my son, he's got a complex medical history. And, if he were to get sick, this would be very, very bad for him. And so we, as a family, we have to take this even more seriously. And so it just seemed like every organization and every family was in crisis mode, and we all needed to make very difficult decisions within a few days of hearing these things, because it just wasn't responsible for anybody to go out and do these public events.
Wow. So when did it actually hit home that, okay, this is going to be something bigger than most viruses to you?
I think in Canada, it was about 3.5 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago. And, it started coming upon where, people would start staying at home. Our regional governments and provincial governments and federal governments were all stating, different things in order to really, make people self-quarantine without them putting regulations in place. But we knew the regulations were going to be coming. Right. So it was interesting. A couple of days before, I wasn't allowed, I'm not allowed to go to work right now. I'm quarantining in my house with my family up here in Canada. And I was going into work and I was thinking, what am I doing? Because I know in 3 or 4 or 5 days, the government's going to step in and say, you're not allowed to go to work. So what am I doing? Putting my family at risk, knowing very well that hey, the virus is here in my city and I might be coming in contact with it today. I'm just going to go and stay at home. So it's an alarming feeling. It's not a good feeling. And it makes you, cherish your loved ones, you're medically vulnerable, the elderly in your community, like my parents. It makes you want to hold them a bit closer.
Yeah. So, I think right along this time, we started hearing that Boston was canceled or postponed rather. And then it was like almost overnight, hundreds of almost thousands, probably in the thousands of races, including marathons, half marathons, Ironman events, ultra distance events, canceled, postponed, not happening. And how did this leave you feeling? Because I know me personally, like, that's a big part of who I am and what I do. And how was that for you?
It really hurt. I ended up having to make the decision because, I put in tons of time and effort and my whole life in the last many years into my Outrun Rare project, the Run Across Canada, in order to create a voice for rare disease support and access in Canada. And to have to stop it and to have to say, okay, this isn't happening.
That had to be gut-wrenching.
It broke my heart. It really did. It was a very, very difficult time in my life. And, I came to realize that, it's not just me who's feeling this way. It's a lot of other people as well, too. When they put their heart and soul into something and it's been taken away from them, or hasn't been taken away, but it was an act of God that this happened. And now we have to pivot. We have to do something with our emotions and thoughts and feelings. And so my coach, Travis Schiller-Brown, ended up texting me that night after we canceled. And he said, hey, so Dave, what do you think of this idea if we were to end up going and creating a free event and we call it Quarantine Backyard? And immediately I was like, we need to talk. And so I think I gave him a call within a half an hour. And by that time, the next day, we had ended up having all of our Outrun Rare volunteers that run across Canada. We took those volunteers and we pivoted. And we pivoted and we created an event that we wanted to bring a global community something to look forward to. Also understanding that there was no sports entertainment. There's no NBA. There's no football. There's nothing happening in the world. And this is the only sporting event that's happening in the world. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a virtual race in which all the runners, click on a Zoom link. You could see a video from their living rooms or their treadmills or their front doors, and they would go out and run a 6.7 kilometer loop every hour on the hour, the backyard style, Lazarus Lake down in Big Dog's Backyard Ultra, his event. We could end up going and creating a pretty rad event, like a global event that anybody and everybody can do, because your goal might be to do 2 laps or your goal might be to do 100. And so what we decided is okay, let's go and create a really big global event and let's just go and hit all the different points. So what we did was we took our disappointment with canceling our Run Across Canada and we put that into an excitement of what, this is how I feel. This is how hurt I feel. How excited could I make somebody else feel by creating something great? And so what I did first was I told Travis and Ashley, I said, hold on one second. I'm going to send out an email. And even during our first meeting, I said, guys, by the end of this meeting, I'm going to send an invite out to the 25 world's best multi-day runners. And I did that. And within a couple hours, we got a handful of runners that were like, dude, I'm in.
So, this included Courtney DeWalker, who's won UTMB, and Mike Bourdain, Maggie, who won Big's Backyard last year. And basically the who's who of ultra running was on this list.
Absolutely. And then even from that, after that 25, there were people that were jumping forward. Were like, oh, shoot, I forgot to put that guy in the list. But yeah, he's wanting in, right? So it wasn't a top 25. It was a top 50, right? And what I also did with that email is I made sure I didn't put a BCC on it. So I wanted them all to see that all the other guys were on the list. And I know because they all were texting me and they were like texting one another. They're like, hey, dude, if you're doing it, I'm doing it. Oh, hey, I heard so-and-so is doing it, so I'm going to do this too. And, before we were able to put out registration the next day, we had, I think it was 12 or 15 really strong elites who were saying, hey guys, we're going to do this. Lazarus Lakes on board. And as well too, check out all these names. And then immediately,
yeah. So I'm going to interrupt you there. How did Laz find out? And what was his first impression of it?
I gave him a call. And so Laz and I have become quite good friends. He's a pretty amazing human being. And so I called him and Sandra and I said, hey, Laz, I got an idea. And he just started laughing. You know, that laugh that everybody knows. And he was like, well, that's not that bad of an idea. And so he was going on. He says, you know, Dave, I would love to be involved, but I don't know how to sort out this internet thing. And so I said, no, you know what? I'll get a guy to give you a call. He'll walk you through this. So, you know, he was on board right away. And he was just such a big supporter as well. He said it gave him something to do. He's been quarantining himself. He's taking this COVID-19 business really seriously, as he should.
Yeah, I mean, so I was supposed to do his race, the Sterling Gym, in May, right. And that got, I mean, I'm basically saying it's canceled. I mean, it's not gonna happen this year, but hopefully I can go out there next year. So he gets involved, and then all these emails start going around. When does it actually say, you know, this is actually going to be a lot bigger than just 25, 50 people? This is actually going to be one of the biggest ultramarathons in the world. How did that progress?
Probably within 2 days, we had 500. It was like, you what? And then it was pretty kind of cool. It was pretty cool to see all those elites, you know, signing up and then putting it out on their social media platforms that, hey guys, guess what I'm doing? And you could do it too.
And it was free.
You might go, oh yeah, it was free. Yeah. So the goal is, you know, is your goal 5 loops? Is your goal 25 loops? You know, but get out there and do it. And all you need is Zoom. All you need is a watch. All you need is a treadmill. Like, do what you can do, based on the country that you're in and the, you know, regulations that you have to work with. But yeah, within days, we were like, oh, right. Like it was like 500, 600, 700 people. I think in the end, we topped out at 2,700, but keep in mind as well, too, these are people that registered. I know a ton of people that ended up not registering and just doing it ad hoc, right? So what was the ultimate number of people that did it? I don't know. We don't know. But I think we had 2,700 registrants. And on race day, it terrified me. To be honest with you, I have no idea about Zoom, you know, YouTube, any of that. I had to have my hand held throughout all this, but, you know, Travis and Ashley with Personal Peak and, you know, all the volunteers, they did extraordinarily well of building this platform.
Overnight.
Overnight. Yeah. And yeah, we had issues, right? Now knowing what we know, we would do things very differently. There's different platforms to use. One of the big issues is on YouTube. If somebody, their ringtone goes off, and let's say it's a popular Bruno Mars song, the whole thing will be cut. So we had 4 YouTube feeds, and each one of them got cut one by one down the road. And you're like, oh, okay, we're running out of YouTube feeds. But luckily enough runners were dropping out that we could squeeze them into the other ones. And so it was really, it worked out really well. I know a lot of runners who their longest run that they've ever run was 20 kilometers, and then they were running over 100 kilometers that day. I mean, we created for those people a truly meaningful experience. But they'll remember it for a lifetime. Yeah,
I mean, I'm down here in Texas, and like I found out about this. I'm like, okay, I'm setting my clocks. Like, I'm going to be up watching this. Like, because I knew Mike was in there. Mike Bourdain, he won the 50K at Marine Corps Marathon last year. And we play chess all the time, like, because we're both nerds. But, I mean, it's so many people that I know that were doing this. I'm like, okay, this is going to be really fun to watch.
Right. No, absolutely. And it was fun. You know, on the elite feed, you know, Courtney Dauwalter ended up, you know, giving these, you know, terribly wonderful, but terrible jokes, every hour, you know, these dad jokes or whatever you'd want to call them. You know, almost immediately there was this guy from Dubai who ended up getting, you know, strung into the elite field because everybody was voting for him because he was trending on the internet as a living room guy. He was a Russian living in Dubai, and he was running loops around his living room. And I think his 3-year-old, 4-year-old boy ended up running more than he did because he was dressed up as like a traffic control officer, and he was like, telling his dad what to do. And it was just awesome. It was, there were so many amazing stories. There was Anna Carlson, who ended up, I think, got third or fourth.
I think third.
But she ended up running around a frozen lake in northern Sweden.
Oh, Sweden.
Sweden. Yeah, northern Sweden. And so just hardcore. I think that she ended up getting like 8th place or 6th place or something or other last year at Bigs. Just a beast. But even a better person than even a runner. So it was full of incredible stories, right? And I think that, everybody focuses right now on the controversy at the end. I would like to suggest everybody, okay, calm down. We love to be critics, right? But let's face it, we got this done within 2 weeks, and what could have been handled better at the end? Yeah, of course. But let's focus on the good that happened, and there was a tremendous amount of good. And I would suggest to everybody, it's like, okay, we created a free event, and let's leave it at that. Let's be grateful for the things that we have instead of arguing the things that happened.
Yeah. So you dropped out at 31, but let's kind of back up a little bit. What was it like for you to start the first loop with everybody else, knowing that this is about to really happen with 2,700 other people around the world?
Well, it was so fun because I was on the elite field, and you look at the starting corral and you see all those names, and you're like, whew, like that's pretty intense. Part of me was thinking, oh, technology hold up, because that it could just fail, and I don't know enough about it to know that, what would I do? But like anything, you all you do is, like any race, all you do is you go and do the first loop. That's all you can really be responsible for. And then you do it, and you do what you need to do in that loop in order to get out of the next one. And then you're responsible for that one. And so it's a lot of living within the now. Instead of being fearful of, okay, I'm going to be running 30, 40, 50, 60 hours later. Anybody who thinks that would be crippled in fear. You can't think that. All you can do is okay, what am I eating right now? What am I drinking right now? How am I taking care of that knee thing that's acting up? So, it's a really cool event, these backyards, because really it's just a focus in a living within the now, and not being too worried about the future and the past.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people have asked, and I've seen it asked 100 times all over the internet, when is the next one? Have y'all thought about doing another one?
Oh yeah. But that's the thing, is that, I would like to say, hey, let's pause for a second. But then on the other hand, everybody's asking. And so, I don't know. I really don't know. I know that there's a lot of chatter from within the volunteer committee. I know we can make it better. I know that there's so many opportunities to give back to a community that really needs something right now. So planning another event for 12 months down the road, no, we need to plan something here soon. But what it's going to look like, is it going to be the exact same format? I can't say, but there's a lot of really good ideas that are coming through, and a lot of really good people are coming on board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's awesome. I mean, just from my point of view, it's the only sporting event that I've seen in the last 2 months. And I think a lot of people are on the same page with that. The last real race I saw was Ironman 70.3 Campeche. And after that was it. Like, that was the last race. And now it's just moving on. So let's talk about your motivation and your mental health right now. How is that? And has it changed with the quarantining?
It sure has. Like, I don't know. I'm living in quarantine with my family right now. I'm able to get in some good miles, and I didn't push it to the limit with quarantine backyard. I was definitely fit enough for 60, 70, 75 hours. And so I'm feeling like I end up having a back issue, and it wouldn't resolve. And okay, that was the end of that at 31 hours. So I'm back, training again. mentally, my big focus is, the big one is 2021 run across Canada. And that's got to be at the forefront of everything that I do at this point. But then number 2 is Big's Backyard, which is going to be in October. Hopefully, we're back at things come October. And I think we might be, but I just don't know. But really all, with this quarantine that's happening right now with COVID-19, I find it makes everybody just kind of collapse a little bit back into themselves, and they start realizing what's most important. And so I have to admit that I was putting training and other things at times over top of family and my children and my wife. And what I've come to realize lately is that's crap. And I can get up earlier in the morning or stay up later at night to get that training in, but I'll never get these moments back, because with this quarantine as well too, we're kind of all given the gift of time to spend with our families and be closer and more caring for them. And so I think that there's a lot of negative and there's a lot of mental things we could talk about, but I think there's a lot of positives we can end up taking from something like this. Number 1, my family isn't sick. We don't have COVID-19 at this point. And number 2, I'm just going to hold them closer while I can.
I mean, and honestly, you have to take some credit for thinking and organizing this event. Like, this was, in my mind, a historic event that united pretty much every country in the world in some way or another with running, and running in the most ridiculous way. I mean, going around a coffee shop 1,000 times, or a living room, or a frozen lake, or treadmills, or like Mike, I think his loop was a half mile. So he had to do 10 loops or something crazy. Man.
Well, I think it really comes down to togetherness. And, I challenge everybody out there, to define what's your community. Because, I think it's normal for me to think, okay, my community is my family, my wife and my 3 kids, and I'm going to keep them safe and I'm going to look after them. But okay, is my community my neighborhood? And what about my family, my parents, my brother and sister? But beyond that, is my community my province or my country? I look out for other Canadians. This is why we have borders, right? But then what about a global community? What about runners within all over the world? And really, that's where, at the very forefront of what we try to accomplish with the Personal Peak Quarantine Backyard, was we tried to view, the global community as our community, and that's who we need to be looking out for right now, because we're all in this together. We all have quarantine issues. We all have races that have been canceled. We all feel hurt and damaged because of where we all are right now. And I can't imagine any one other thing that's ever happened in the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years that's really united the entire world, because we're all in this together.
Right, because, I mean, the way I like to explain it is, we all are putting forth a lot of time, energy, effort, money, resources, phone calls, anxiety, sacrificing time with family, time at work, time sleeping, all because we want to do well on one day that one event is going to matter a lot to us. And now then, all those events for everyone across the world canceled. And now we're all feeling that same of, okay, well, what do we do now? Right.
And this pandemic and this universal trauma has really united us, because we're all in this together. Because in the United States or in the Congo, nobody is better off and nobody is worse off. When you get sick with the coronavirus and your lungs collapse, you're in trouble, and there's going to be loss. And if a family loses a family member in Zimbabwe, or a family member uses a family member in Sweden, it's a loss. It's a loss to a community. And we all need to protect and look out for one another. But I think that by creating community events in a safe, reasonable way, we're all giving back to something, and remembering that, hey, you know what? Instead of me looking out for myself and going and buying all the toilet paper in the stores, that's not helpful. But you know what is helpful is me thinking outside of myself and going and creating a community event where I can make somebody else, just one other person, smile. And I think that's exactly what we try to do with Quarantine Backyard, is we try to create meaningful experiences for countless other strangers. I feel extraordinarily proud about that.
Good. So let's just wrap up a little bit here. We have a little bit of time left. You've done a lot of races around the world. What races are still on your bucket list, man?
Spartathlon is a big one. I'm typically a 24-hour specialist. I've run 260 kilometers in 24 hours. So, I think that I could do quite well at Spartathlon. And what a cool course. What a cool historic race. I've always wanted to do that. Comrades, I think just going and seeing and being and feeling and towing the line at Comrades would just be an epic thing, but number one, I gotta run across this country, to be able to put every single foot down and to get from point A to point B. One of my good friends, Pete Kostelnik, who's run across America, and then of course key to key, there's a very wonderful feeling. I can't think of the word, but it's fulfilling to be able to transform your body, to get your body across a massive space, and say, I've traveled on foot across America or from here to here, and I'm a Canadian and I love my country, and I want to experience my country, in a very unique way that's very unique to me. And
whenever you do this across Canada, are you gonna try to do the same routes that Terry Fox did?
Yes, yeah. So we're starting off in St. John's and going to make our way to Victoria. It's 7,200 kilometers, and
that's gonna be emotional doing that.
Oh, huge! I mean, Terry Fox is my hero. There's that saying: it's not how far Terry Fox got; it's how far he got us. Since his passing, the Terry Fox Foundation has raised $850 million and really put cancer on the map in Canada and has saved countless lives. And so, sometimes people need something to get behind and to rally behind. And I think that people like Terry Fox are a very unique breed that can end up being that person that they see themselves emulated in. We look at these superhero movies, the Captain America, Incredible Hulk, and I think we see the good in that, and we want to be that. But what about those real life people, right? What about the Terry Foxes and the countless others who are really, like the superheroes? And right now, going back to the pandemic, it's, I have a friend who's a doctor, and he's not seeing his family right now. But every night before his children go to bed, he goes over and he stands outside the window and he kisses his children, and this is his sacrifice. He's a true life hero. And these are all the medical staff and the frontline workers that are going to be working COVID-19 for the next many months. And these are the real heroes in our lives at this moment. I believe in heroes.
So, if you could actually predict, when do you think everything will get back to somewhat normal?
Probably October. Yeah. I don't think that we're going to see our peak in Canada for probably another 5-6 weeks is what our medical professionals are telling us. It's going to get worse and worse and worse before it gets any better. Still I see people, getting together and doing public gatherings, not taking certain precautions when at the grocery store or whatever. And I keep thinking, okay, come on, guys. I know that there are certain people out there that are saying, hey, it's no big deal. The government's, it's conspiracy or whatever. You guys are putting people like my son at risk. And we need temper this as soon as possible because, if I were to get it, okay, I would probably get quite sick and it might cause, respiratory issues for life. But if my son were to get sick, it would be a very different story. And I need to protect him and I need to spread a positive message about, please, everybody, reconsider who's your community and help out my son and help other people who are more vulnerable.
Right. So we have to mention Sam's disease, and I have to be honest, I don't know how to say it correctly. So I'm going to let you do that.
I don't either. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my son, he's got a rare disease called relapsing encephalopathy with cerebellar ataxia. So we call it RECA or ECA, and it's a genetic disease in which he's ataxic. So it means lack of balance and coordination. So he walks around and moves around like he's about to fall over all the time. He struggles to feed himself and get dressed in the morning. And you see it in his speech. And so, he's an 11-year-old boy who's just, he loves superhero movies. He's just a really good kid, super smart, all those different things. But yeah, he struggles with basic movements. Unfortunately, he gets triggered. His rare disease gets triggered by a specific virus and a number of specific viruses that also come on as fevers. So if Sam were to get a fever, he basically starts off with basically childbirth. So he loses the ability to turn his head, to be able to breathe on his own, to be able to do anything. So even blink his eyes or swallow. Wow. And so he needs to be put on the respirator and he needs support. So what terrifies me is this fever, this virus, the coronavirus, is a fever. And so if he were to contract this as well too, it collapses your lungs. It basically brings upon pneumonia. He would of course need a respirator. We're running out of respirators in Canada. Everywhere in the world is. And even on a respirator, I'm not so sure. And so it scares the hell out of me. But if it didn't scare the hell out of me, I wouldn't be a good dad.
Man.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in. So we can just go ahead and tell people where to follow you. I know you are at Run Proctor, and you also have an Instagram for Dave Outruns Rare, and you also have a website which is outrunrare.com.
Correct.
So is there anywhere else people can follow you?
I'm on Facebook. I just opened a TikTok account with my daughter yesterday, and so we're making some fun, quarantine TikTok video. I'm a terrible dancer, man. It's not good, but it's fun. We're having a blast with it. So yeah, go check out Instagram. Follow us on Facebook, and we're gonna have more and more news leading up into the Run Across Canada next year.
Cool. Well, I have to say thank you again so much for taking a few minutes to chat with me. I've enjoyed this. And Dave, I look forward to following you in the future. This is something amazing that I've been following for at least 8 months now, and I look forward to following you even more, man.
Thanks a lot, Terry. That means a lot.
You're welcome. You have a good day, okay?
Yeah, you too, man.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.